Hey y'all, welcome back to the Insurance Lounge with me, Tanya.
And me, Kristy.
We are your local insurance agent out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. We are here to make insurance a little less boring and way more useful for you, as our goal is to share with you what we know so that you feel more confident about your insurance, and that way you can better protect your family, your home, your business, and certainly your financial future. So, with that said, Christy, what are we talking about this week?
Yeah, so today, Tanya, we want to talk about the decision, the big decision, right? To file or not to file. When you have damages to your home, is it better to file a claim because that's what insurance is for? Or should you consider maybe paying for some of that out of pocket? It's a big decision for folks.
It is, and it's you probably get that question many, 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 many
Many
times.
times a day, yeah.
Yes, so do we. So we were really excited to share with you today the three key considerations to help you make a smarter decision for your situation and your wallet. So, with that said, first, we want to size up the damage, right, Christy?
Right, right. And not just yourself, right? Get an estimate from a professional. Most people will give you an estimate, but for no cost. So you don't have to, commit to having them fix the damage, but have someone who you trust or who comes highly recommended, someone local, someone you've kind of checked out, give you an estimate on fixing the damage and know what you're really talking about then.
Absolutely. And we usually recommend this to our customers, Christy, that, don't make your decision based on just one estimate, right?
Exactly.
So I would say a fair number is two, maybe three
Maybe 3,
estimate,
sure. Yep.
right? Maybe three. The one thing we also like to advise our customer too is when there is damage to your home, guys, and you call around for an estimate, I would say just let these guys know, like, hey, I have such and such damage on my home. Can you come out and take a look and let me know what the repair cost is going to be?
Yeah.
And leave the insurance word or claim out of it. I don't know
Out of the conversation.
what it
Yeah.
is. Yes, I don't know what it is. But the moment you mention the word insurance, your estimate will double for the
Yep.
same amount of labor hours and the same material. So you do not get a special treatment if it's going through a claim, guys. So just make sure that you get a fair estimate, but don't underestimate, right? Because you'll have a decision to make. So you want to make sure you get a detailed, clear estimate, a fair estimate, I should say.
Yeah. And I
And
think,
typically,
so really the thing we're considering here is what's the urgency and the scope of the problem. So, if it's not an emergency and maybe it's even more cosmetic than functional, maybe you consider just paying for that out of pocket and save your insurance for the bigger ticket items that, are apt to happen in a home at some point in the life of your home.
right. And that reminds me of one of our customer that we brought on earlier this year, who was shopping around for better rate on home, right? And unfortunately, Christy, he kind of did this backwards, right? When he has a small damage, called the insurance company first.
Yeah.
So the claim was open on him, but then after he got some contractor to come out, they fixed the repair, put on some fresh paint, and it literally cost him $200.
Eek.
Yeah, so now for our audience, when that happened, you go through the insurance company first and get their inspector to come out, that is going to be an automatic claim. And we're going to talk about some of the ramification that comes with that. But unfortunately for this customer, that one small claim that was open, he didn't even go through insurance for that.
Yeah.
And there was zero payout. But it stuck with him. We're going to talk a
Yep.
little bit more about that. So now, Christy, we now know how big the damage is, how much it's going to cost roughly for repair. What's the second thing our audience should know?
So the next decision point really is then how does that compare to your coverage and your deductible? And, cost is important, but the coverage is maybe even more important. Insurance is there for things that happen that are sudden and accidental. It's not there for kind of your normal wear and tear type of issues, aging pipes or um,
Old
damage
roof.
from termites, old roof, that's a big one, right? So your insurance is almost never going to cover something that just happened because of aging that, it's your responsibility as a homeowner to keep maintenance up on that sort of thing. Eventually, you might have to put a new roof on your home that isn't covered by insurance because it's you haven't had some type of big incident, there hasn't been a storm with damage, wind damage or hail damage or anything like that. It's just aged to a point where now it's not protecting your home any longer and you've got to replace it. It happens.
Yeah, and if you want to think about it this way, guys, your homeowner's policy is like your auto policy, right? Your auto policy pay for an accident because it's sudden and accidental. But your auto policy will never pay for your car oil change or if you need a
Right.
new set of tires because they're old, right? So think of your homeowner's insurance for that too. If you wake up one morning and your water pipe busted and the house is flooded, that's accidental and sudden. If you have a kitchen fire because you accidentally caught the kitchen on fire while you were cooking with grease, that happened a lot, right? But
Yeah, it
that is
does.
cover. That is cover because it's sudden and accidental and not wear and tear. The
Right.
other thing that we want to consider too, and of course, is whether you look at your policy or give your agent a call, is the repair below or is it close to your out-of-pocket deductible?
Yeah, yeah. And this is where I really sort of struggle with some people because you get those people who will say to you, Tanya, I'm sure you've heard this before too, right? That's what my insurance is for. It's 200 that, the cost to repair is $200 more than my deductible. That's what my insurance is for. I'm just going to claim it and let insurance take care of it. And I mean, on the one hand, sure, okay, you're paying a premium, but there are ramifications to handling things that way and to making decisions that way. Frequent claims, even like you said earlier, that zero payout claim, it does impact your renewability on your policy. It can impact your premiums on your policy, and it can impact your ability to switch to a different policy if you decide that you don't like where you are and you want to shop around and move somewhere. Claims can have an impact on that. So it's really should be more of a thought process, of how much expendable income do I have and can I pay for, even a little bit more over my deductible to keep that claim off of my policy and protect myself against the risk of my premium going up.
Exactly. The other thing that we want to encourage you to do as well is, check in with your agent often or at least know where your policy is so that you can pull it up and reference that because on your homeowner policy, there are a lot of coverages that come standard with the policy, but there are also a lot of extra coverages that you can purchase that does not come standard on your policy. So maybe you have a loss that would have been covered by your insurance policy if you were to have that extra coverage on there, but you
Hmm.
just didn't opt into that at the time of purchase. So check with your agent, if there are certain concerns that you know front of mind or that your neighbor's having a lot of those issues.
Yeah.
For example, maybe water backup is an issue in your neighborhood.
Hmm.
Water backup is not standard. You gotta, not all the time, you gotta add it on. So that's
Yeah.
one quick example on that.
That comes to mind. Things like um, codes, bring coverage to bring repairs up to current codes when a home is an older build. So that comes to mind. Yeah,
Yep, absolutely. So reach out to your agent and at least, once every once in a while, right? And make sure that you understand exactly what's covered and what's not covered on your policy.
absolutely.
So now that we know the cost, we know what our policies cover, let's real quick. talk about the long-term financial and insurance impact if let's start with if we were to file a claim, Christy. What are some benefit that comes with filing a claim?
Yeah, so filing a claim obviously is, ideal for large and unaffordable repairs. And of course, unaffordable, that looks different, to you versus me versus my neighbor. Everybody has a unique situation, but that's where I'm saying, really put some thought into what's the short-term cost of something versus the long-term. And this is where people get mad, right? Because why do I have to pay for insurance if you're going to charge me when I have a claim? But the fact of the matter is, sometimes that does happen. So if
Right.
you're filing claims for those, smaller, lower cost type of repairs and getting surcharged for that, then in the long run, you really didn't save yourself any money by filing the claim and have the insurance pay it.
Yes, and you
But
will.
on the other hand, you've got
Yep.
that big unaffordable incident, your roof needs repair because of a windstorm or tree damage or something like that. Then that really is where even if you get a surcharge or a rate increase because of something like that, it's worth it because most people don't have 10, 20, $50,000 for a large house to replace a roof just completely out of pocket.
Yeah, or even $150,000 in repair, right, Christy? We've seen some real,
Right.
really
Yeah.
large claims. So, just a quick example, guys, because really this is where, we want you to make the best decision for yourself and use the insurance policy to work for you, right, without costing you extra money in the long run.
Right.
So, going back to what Christy was saying, if the repair is really small, like for example, if the damage is going to cost you $3,000 to repair. And let's assume that after you file a claim, you're going to get a 10 to 20% increase over the next 3 years for that surcharge, right?
Mhm.
So let's say if it's $400 a year, every year for the next 3 years, that's $1,200 plus your $1,000 deductible out of pocket. So now, if you really look at that, does it make sense for me to file a claim like that? Or maybe I should have known beforehand and then paid that out of pocket
Yeah.
and avoid all that increases because at this point really my insurance policy plus what they pay for the claim is really not worth it, right?
Right.
So
Right.
so we urge you do the math with your spouse, with your partner, talk it through with your insurance agent and really kind of gauge and see, is it worth you putting in that claim.
Yep.
Now, we can tell you a lot of time when you pay out of pocket, where it really wins, guys, is really for those smaller issues, right?
Right.
It is really it comes with the territory being a homeowners, right? We got to take pride in our home and maintain our home and take care of the small repair because one is going to prevent bigger damages and and avoid having to go through this long process and with a claim. Also, it keeps your record clean, right, Christy? Because
Right.
on a home claim, they do follow you around, even if you decide not to go through with the claim, like my client did,
Right. Yeah.
right? Or like you said, that example where insurance only pay out $200 to make up for the difference after your deductible.
Yep.
So,
I
really,
really encourage people, and this is what I always say, if you're thinking about filing a claim, just please call me first and let's talk about it. So that we can, talk about all these things. Is it something that's sudden accidental that your policy is likely to cover? And what really are the ramifications of filing here? Can you afford to handle this on an out-of-pocket basis versus filing a claim and facing those repercussions?
yeah. And I want to touch on what you said earlier about, the possibility of being non-renewed or being very difficult to shop around for better rates or even to find a carrier that is willing to take someone with that claim
Right.
history.
Particularly
So,
certain types of claims, right, Tanya? I mean, water
absolutely.
claims. Water claims are bad, folks. Insurance companies don't like water claims and theft claims. In particular, I see those things, really impact rates and impact eligibility.
Yeah, so, considering paying out of pocket if you have claims or multiple claim of the same type that you had filed recently, because you might want to save that one claim for the real rainy day, right? For
Right,
bigger
right.
damages. So
I like what you said, Tanya, when we were talking earlier about, aiming to claim only 1 to 2 times per decade if possible. I mean, things happen and sometimes it's going to be more frequent than that, but as a responsible homeowner, and someone who's looking at your cost and trying to manage it, I think that's a good aim. I'm always amazed and when I look at people's policies and they have a claim a year, and I'm like, what are you doing? What are you and then, so yeah, 1 to 2 per decade would be a nice goal.
yeah, and I think
Or
that's
never.
about
Have some
yeah,
people
I
who
think that's
never have a
about
claim.
average anyways. Yep, yep.
Yeah.
So I think if you add up everybody, I think the average for most people is maybe one claim a decade
Mhm.
that's worthy of putting in a claim anyway. So
Sure.
yeah. So we talk about a lot of good tips today, Christy. So let's summarize the points that we talk about. So
Yeah, let's do
first,
it. First of all, summarize the damage. Evaluate, get an estimate, look at what it's really gonna actually cost you to repair. And
and don't
second,
go by just one estimate, guys.
yeah,
So that's the big
absolutely.
key here. Secondly, make sure you check your policy. You want to know what your deductibles are. You want to know what your coverage limits are, as well as what's excluded from your policy.
Right,
We
right.
do recommend you do this, even if you're not going to have a claim, because you really want to be prepared for those situations. Like we mentioned earlier, there are certain coverages that you can purchase for additional premium that you might not be aware of, but your agent should be able to help you walk through that.
Yep. Next time your agent offers you a policy review, take it. Take the
Absolutely.
opportunity to talk through that.
Absolutely.
The third thing, consider the long-term implications of filing a claim and really, weigh the cost and benefit. And is it worth filing a claim? Maybe if it's a big ticket, high priced item versus maybe you just pay out of pocket for something that's close to your deductible, certainly under your deductible, and something more manageable from a cost perspective.
Absolutely, guys. So, the in conclusion, deciding whether or not to file a claim is really not one size fit all, because
Yeah.
it's really all about you and your unique situation at that time. So, the next time you find yourself in a situation when you are on the fence, um, give your agent a call
Call your agent.
and
And if you don't have an agent, then you can call one of us.
ask absolutely. So, and we can walk you through it and make it a little bit easier on you. So, with that said, until next time, guys.
Until next time.
Bye.